People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in. Now, obviously, on Saturday, we're going to play against Liverpool. You know, it's going to be a difficult game. Arteta is given, in relation to the Community Shield, Arteta is given his press conference and offered some comments and thrown up some comments. As you lot know, it's a bit of a weird season because normally both teams would be underway in pre-season, and the curtain opener or the curtain raiser for the season would be the Community Shield. It's a weird one because, you know, Liverpool have played a couple of friendlies. We've played one against MK Dons. You could imagine both teams are going to commence more friendlies and pre-seasons with this, and almost the Community Shield, which is almost the setup for the season, it's almost business as usual after this. So we're going to have to see what happens. But he's given a lengthy press conference, and I apologise if I bore you, but we might as well start reading it and speaking about it because there are some interesting segments. He spoke vaguely about Aubameyang, Guendouzi, Maitland-niles, and obviously Gabriel. He went on to say, well, first and foremost, he said, when pressed on how hard it is mentally to start a season 3 weeks before last season ending, he said, well, it's not hard because we really like our job and we have the privilege to work in this industry. We needed some time to just reflect on what we did and also to put our minds a bit away from football. So naturally to mentally recharge more than physically, because physically I don't think we can't be too unfit. But moving on, he said, I think we had a chance to do it, not as normally we do, but enough. And the players seem in good condition mentally and physically. We're ready to go. We have no choice. We have a cup to play for. And that's it. You're tired, whatever. Who gives a crap? Football is now to be played. Fantastic response from Arteta. He was asked about Saliba. Now, obviously, you can't get too gassed off a performance against MK Dons, but Saliba looks good. I hope he starts against Liverpool in the Community Shield. I hope he gets blooded in sooner rather than later. You know, it's going to take a while for Gabriel, if he does sign, to really get going at this club because he's currently quarantining for 2 weeks. You know, can't imagine he'd have too much time to train with the first team. Can do his own training thing, but you know, he hasn't trained with the first team. Is Arteta going to start him straight away when he hasn't really integrated into the team and trained? Doubt so. So we might have to wait for Gabriel a bit. So let Saliba get these minutes. In relation to Saliba, who frequently over last season came back to Arsenal for medical checks and training, he said he's been training really hard. He stayed here in London to do better preparation, and you can tell that he looks ready. Obviously, there are a lot of things that are new for him and he'll need to adapt. But certainly, he has the right qualities for this football club and as well the right attitude to keep on improving and showing he can be a player for our future. And I like that from Saliba. He wants to have, you know, he knows he's 19. He's still got a lot to go. He knows there's a lot of pressure. Probably puts a lot of pressure on himself. And he just wants to improve and play well. So he's got into training earlier. You know, few people could be forgiven for believing, yeah, I'm William Saliba. Everyone in Europe wanted me. You know, 2 North London rivals fought it out for me. You know, Arsenal wanted me so much they let me stay at my team. I could coast, I can do this wavy lifestyle, it's all a drip. But he's come with some hunger, you know, he's starting from zero. He wants to take spaces, you know. Yeah, he got to start against MK Dons, but let's say Arteta says, I'm going with the man that started the FA Cup, and he has to earn his way. He's hungry, he wants to take people's spots, and that's what we need to see. Because when I see Saka come in, man, see hunger. Martinelli, hunger. When Aubameyang's older, but when he plays with hunger. This is what man want to see. I want to see competition for place. I want to see man that when they're out there for Arsenal, whether they play 2 minutes, 10 minutes or 90, they're playing like they can never play football again. They're playing like this opportunity is never going to come again and they don't want to waste it. You do that, it makes us more competitive. Obviously, we should do better in the league, but it makes us have a better group of players. You look at City. Yeah, they didn't have the best of teams, best of seasons, but all their man there know if they don't do their jobs in their respective positions, there's 2, maybe even 3 men that can clap their spots. There's pressure at fullbacks. Centre half's a dodgy one with City. You don't know the midfield and the attackers. It's like Monopoly. Sane leaving makes it less of a case, but you get the point. That's what you want to see from Saliba, man. You want to see that hunger. He's got big potential, but you've got to work hard to meet that potential. And it's nice to see he's moving in the right direction and has got that hunger. When asked about the shape of our side, he said we've had 2 training sessions, so you can imagine that this game comes straight in the middle of our mini pre-season. But as well, we haven't had much time to lose a lot of condition. Obviously, it's not an ideal moment to play in this final, but the players are motivated. Obviously, it's another opportunity to win a trophy, and we'll go for it. You know, it's not the biggest of trophies, but it's trophies. Like he said, we haven't lost a lot mentally or physically. We just have to get off and go and do a business, innit? You know, put in a performance. When asked about, well, I won't bore you, he was asked about quarantine and failing tests, and he kind of quashed that and said it's all right. He spoke about Aubameyang's deal, people. He said, and it's more of the same, and until he signs it, we don't know. He said, I keep being positive. We've had some really good talks with him and his agent, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to find an agreement soon. That's my feeling again. When pressed on if it would give us a lift, he said, absolutely, and for him as well. I think he should be happy if he's able to stay at a club for a long time. I think people will be delighted with that news, which is, we all want Aubameyang to sign. That's like, to quote our former manager, you know, the legendary Arsene Wenger, it would be like a new signing, you know. I'm counting that as a new signing, you know. Gabriel, centre mid, whoever, Willian, Aubameyang, new deal, people. Car, we lose him, his peak. Moving away from that though, when asked on if we're ready to challenge for the top 4, and again it's important because now he's got more power with the transfers. Obviously he's not dotting I's, crossing T's and shutting in checks, but this is now where I'm listening. He said, let's see how we look at the end of the transfer window. It has just started and everything looks pretty slow at the moment. Not many teams are moving aggressively, so a lot of things are going to happen from now to October 6th. But it doesn't matter who we have, we will challenge for the top 100%. So regardless, he wants us to put more of a fight at top 4. And we can with these existing players. I don't think they're good enough to only get the job, but they're definitely, if we showed more consistency and, you know, didn't concede many goals and do the dumb things that Arsenal have done and the many problems that we have as a squad, we would be closer to the top 4. Ifs and buts are not facts, you know, but we can play better. To get over that line, we do need better, but with existing players, we can do better than to be 8th. You know, to drop however many points from winning positions and concede from set pieces and woeful away games and struggling to win one week, and you know, all of these things can be bettered. It don't mean we're going to get top 4, but it could have mean we're there with Chelsea and United in that race, and we only have ourselves to blame for not being in it. He was again asked on COVID, people, and without sounding disrespectful, I don't want to go over it again because he gave the answer you would expect and what he can say. You know, he's not a doctor. He was then spoken about, you know, Williams made a big noise about he wants to win the champs and all the Prem within his 3 years. He said, Arteta said about that, well, it is the right spirit. I want players who are optimistic and willing and they want to win for the club. That is the feeling I got from the day I met William. He's not satisfied with what he has done in his career, which is a lot. And he's going to bring some special qualities for our team and the type of attitude and mentality that you just mentioned. Regarding Gabriel, we cannot announce anything yet. The deal is not finalised. You all know he is a player that we have followed for a long time, and hopefully we can get it done. Copied and pasted 2 into 1 there. He was then asked on the players still fit from last season. He said, yes, what we don't know is how they will react when they start to play every 3 days, when it gets to November, December and January, because we put a lot of demands on them. The COVID situation was a stop and then full gas they started, and you could see the injury rate went crazily up. We are going to try to protect them as much as possible, give them everything we can from the science and physical point of view to be in the best condition to perform. He was then pressed on fans, people returning to the stadium. I'm not going to mention that. You can go on Google and read that one yourself. Again, back to the Gabriel deal, he said, well, everything is okay. When both parties sign and the player agrees the terms and we go through the medical, sometimes that in the final stages it is not as easy as it looks, but we are pretty confident that we can do it. And again, you know, like Aubameyang, talking about Aubameyang's contract and Gabriel's deal, Aubameyang might not sign a new deal. We might not even confirm the signing of Gabriel, because again, the one denominator between the two, unless they're holding that shirt or they're taking the picture with the contract, it's all up in air. But, you know, Arteta, for one thing, from day one, he's very good at reading the room, very good at emotional intelligence. And one thing I'll give Arsenal, for anyone, they're not going to say several things unless there's a degree of confidence. Like I said, I'm not saying Aubameyang's definitely going to stay. But Arteta is not going to shoot himself in the foot, considering he's got more power now. Saying Aubameyang, I'm pretty confident, if there isn't a degree of that. You know, the same goes for Gabriel. If Gabriel weren't moving closer, if Vinay and Edu didn't tell him we're progressing in Hos Farmy, he wouldn't come out and say this. Or it wouldn't make sense. And I don't have Arteta as a stupid man, so I don't think he would. So it's not over the line. We can't count our chickens yet. But, you know, you'd imagine that we're going to see some progress with Aubameyang's new deal and Gabriel signing. It's more of the same on one hand. He's pressed on Maitland-niles. Now, there's a lot of talk in relation to Maitland-niles on the eve of this Community Shield game. Apparently, Arteta is reluctant to let him leave and stuff. As we know, he's got a new agent and whatnot. When pressed on Maitland-niles leaving, he said, yes, we are reading a lot of news about our players, which is not bad that other clubs want him. But with Ainsley, he's a player that I've said since I've joined that I really like. The best way to show the best way to show that is that I have played him in the most important games of the season, and he responded really well. So that's where we are with the player. He was then further pressed on if he's allowed to go. He said, I'm always open to listening to what a player is feeling at every stage of their career, and then I can give them my opinion on how I see it. What I expect from them, and if we have the right understanding, then we have to move forward together. If there's something that doesn't work, then we'll assess it with the player and the club and find a decision for both of them. So indirectly, what does that tell you? He mentioned stage of Maitland-niles' career. Now, I've previously said when you look at Maitland, he's 22. He's had great runs in the team and great runs out of the team. I think he wants to play consistently or go to a team he can genuinely be offered that. And if he's deemed that that's not Arsenal, I can't begrudge him, because when you look at it, when everybody's fit, as much as I and you lot believe in his abilities to play fullback, is Bellerin going to play ahead of him, or Cedric? Is Maitland going to play ahead of them, better yet? He's talking about, Arteta's spoken of his capabilities in midfield. You know, he done well against United a couple of years ago, and he was shaky last year in the Europa, but has he got an opportunity in midfield? Would he play in midfield when everybody's fit? Because you could argue he could offer more than Joe Willock, not to bash Joe Willock in that role. Has he been given an opportunity? Do you get it? So if Ainsley's looking at it like, boy, I'm 22, I've made 100 appearances for this club, and I'm still not really 30, and I want to keep it moving and go somewhere I can settle down roots and kind of divorce from Arsenal, a club I've been at 8 years or so, since 8. I can't fault that, people. But I think that tells you what it is, you know. I think Maitland kind of wants to know where he stands, especially this stage of his career. And I think Arteta wants to use him, but Arteta isn't going to be bullied or strong-armed with all these rumours and all these things. I think Arteta wants to keep him, but until something's confirmed, we don't know. He's contracted until 2023, so in rarity for Arsenal fans, we're actually in some sort of bit of power with this, innit? He's contracted until 2023. You know, we apparently rejected an opening bid. To be fair to Maitland, you know, based on how he's been playing, well, how I've been hearing he's training, I'm pretty sure he played against. He did play against MK Dons. He doesn't look like it's phasing him, and you know, as a footballer, you have to be able to deal with it. But we'll have to see what happens, people. We'll have to really see what happens. Further down, you know, he spoke about Barcelona and Messi. I'm not going to bore you lot with that. He spoke about rival clubs. It's not really of relevance, people. Again, in relation to Gabriel, he said, we are trying to finalise the deal. So that's what I can tell you at the moment. In relation to Guendouzi, someone who's been linked with a move away, someone whose attitude cost them an FA Cup trophy ultimately, he said, I've been really clear that everyone starts from zero all the time in football. What you did 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago really doesn't matter. It's what you are able to contribute to the team now. Everybody is going to have the same opportunities. They have to show with their performances and their attitude that they are better than their teammates, or somehow contributing to what we want to achieve this season. And that's perfect. The club still might want to move Guendouzi out, but this tells me the gauntlet's been thrown to Guendouzi. You know, what's happened. It's an olive branch. You know, you come, you work hard, there might be a role for you here if you want to roll your socks up. If you still want to leave, let's do our thing. But if you want to stay, get down, work hard. It might take long for you to get the opportunity, but it will come, and when you get it, take it, sort of thing. And that's good, you know. Even though I think El Nene doesn't have a future here, it's good to see El Nene obviously scoring that goal and playing well against MK Dons, because Arteta's throwing down the gauntlet. Mustafi, you know, because of injuries, he got his opportunity. I thought Mustafi should be sold. You know, to a degree, he should still do, but it looks silly. Why? Because Arteta said everybody can get an opportunity. Mustafi showed him levels in training, allegedly, and he's replicated it. That's what another thing I love about Arteta. Whether it's young players we don't think are good enough, or experienced players, he gives you confidence. You do your thing, you'll play. And this tells me that they're kind of forgiving Guendouzi. Now, is that because we've offered him around to clubs, and, you know, these swap deal things with Partey and this guy that we try and haven't happened? Has any of the interest that the PSG, Juventus, Barcelona, Villarreal with Emre and all of these guys, has it come to anything? You know, is it just been paper talk? Could we actually be being coy in that we're acting like we're reintroducing him back into the team, but actually he's still on the market so we don't look desperate? I don't know. You lot know me, I like Guendouzi. I think he's a decent player. I like his passion. I think that if he channels it the right way and if he polishes the rough edges in his game, we've got a decent player. I'm not here to talk about world class and this, that and the other. I do think he can be a decent player. I do think he could be, because I think he gets it, but he needs to rein it in. Moving away from that though, and he said, he was pressed on whether he has spoken to Guendouzi off the field. He said yes, in the off season, and then he was then spoke on whether he's happy with what's going on. He said, to tell him exactly that he's going to be part of the team, and at the moment he's like any other player in our squad. He deserves first and foremost to be treated exactly the same, and I'll do that to my best capability. So yeah, everybody starts again. You prove you're worthy of a chance, you'll get one. Eddie should have went out on loan in January, couldn't get a game for Leeds. You know, he worked hard, got his chance. Mustafi got his chance. You know, Joe Willett for me hasn't taken all his chances, but there's got to be a reason he is playing in that 10 position ahead of certain other young players. Why Emil's gone out on loan? Why Maitland, you know, I don't think they're the same profile, but hasn't been given a chance. Do you get it? Ceballos, apparently he was stinking in training. Since the Dubai trip, turned it around. Playing. You never know what could happen. Guendouzi, you was doing your thing because you've earned football under Emre. Previously, you was playing under Arteta. Arteta started you in a big game against City away. He's not going to do that to no, pardon my language, no dickhead, someone he don't believe in. You know, it's just about the attitude thing. If you rein it in, we can have a future. And it is you know, the season ended darkly. You didn't get FA Cup, which, you know, would have been your first trophy in your career. It's been put to bed. You know, you got to be man enough to realise you played a part in that, whether you agree with what the manager did or not. And we move forward. If you want to leave, you know, just handle yourself with the best attitude and commitment you can until things get finalised. But it is what it is. In relation to Danny Ceballos, he said, and if he's coming back, he said, well, we've had some talks and Danny knows really well what I think about him. He was pretty clear with me as well that his intention was to remain with us, but obviously Real Madrid is involved and I don't know yet what they want to do with the player. But he's a player that we are interested in because we really saw in the last few months of the season what he is capable of bringing to us, which is a fact. He was then pressed on El Nene, who we just kind of vaguely spoke about. He said, well, I know Mo really well. I played with him. So I know what he can be and I know his strengths and weaknesses really well. He's a really positive character to have around and he has some really good qualities and he does seem like a good character. And like everybody else in the moment that he's with us, he'll be given all our support and the best possible environment for them to perform as high as they can. And I think El Nene could probably stay, you know, because I think if we do sell Guendouzi, Torreira or Maitland, you're going to need people for the squad. And I think El Nene is comfy with being a squad player. He's comfy with the occasional FA Cup, League Cup, Europa League, etc. And he would just technically be a body there. I do think the club want to move him on, but like in the cases of Kolasinac and Socrates and these sort of players, you've got average players on top level player wages, you know, and nobody wants that, you know. You're not going to take a chance, so we're stuck with him, really and truly. If he can prove a use for this squad, then why not, man? And whether I don't think he can, but you know, I like to see him play as well as MK Dons because it looked like he was really trying to leave that field, not even the goal, just leave that field, giving Arteta some thought. Like when Arteta thinks of MK Dons game, he thinks of the performance I put in today, and that's what you want us to see. He was then asked on if he expects Mo to stay, and this is where it's all telling. If he wanted him to stay, he would have said it. He said, we don't know. The 6th of October is still far. As I said, it's pretty unpredictable what is going to happen. So that's told you everything you need to know. He was then asked on Leno, and this is where it gets interesting. Well, not interesting, but this is interesting parts, people. He said, I'd love to have two goalkeepers at the moment of Byrne and Emmy. Last season when Bird got injured, if someone had some doubts about Emmy's character or qualities, he's shown what he's able to do. And he didn't do it for one game, he did it for 10 or 11 in a row. I'm delighted to have both of them. But they both know that on the first day of pre-season, you start again and you fight for your place and show us who is the one that deserves to start. He was then asked on if he can keep them both happy. He said, I don't want to keep them both happy. I want the one that is not playing to be upset, but upset and then challenge the next player to make him better. Or if not, earn his place to do that. If it's not easy to do that. I personally don't see any different with goalkeepers to fullbacks. They know that. I've been really clear with them. And hopefully they can make each other better and hopefully the team better. And that's it. Obviously he's got to manage players. You can't have to, you know, you've got to be able to manage players. But that's it. You earn your spot. You get Leno and you get Martinez in the room. You say, boys, I believe in both of you. Both shown it. But one of you is going to be disappointing because one of you can't play next season too tough. Make sure it's not you. And then you leave the room. And then it's down to them. Let the best man win. Martinez looks, you know, this man's been chasing this thing for 10 years. Leno, I'm sure he don't want to lose his place. So if they fight, they fight. Obviously, one has to win. And if one's not getting football and one wants to leave, well, that's the belly of the beast. Can we get some top dollar for Leno, who's a quality keeper? You know, Martinez probably is going to get a new deal. But right now, he's contracted until 2022. Can we get a decent fee for my man? We'll have to see. He was pressed on if Leno is fit. He said, yes, Leno is fit. He was almost fit for the last game against Chelsea in the FA Cup final. We didn't want to take the risk to get him involved in the squad, but he's been training throughout the summer and he's in perfect condition now. Credit to you, Leno. He was then asked on his reaction to Martinez's form. He said he's not upset. I think he's really happy because he really understands Emmy's position and knows Emmy's history at the club and how patient and how much he's been fighting to earn this place and earn the right. Now that everybody likes him and Bird is such a great character as well for us, he's not someone that is going to be upset about the situation. And he said he was then asked on if Emmy is upset that quarantine stops him being selected. He said, well, that will probably be the case. We've obviously had a plan for all players to make sure that we have as many as possible. And I assume, I don't even know, has Martinez gone to another country? Has he gone to Argentina? Are they on the quarantine list? Has he gone somewhere? I don't know. But I'd imagine there's a few players that, yeah, a couple of Chelsea players have to quarantine now as well. They're not in the Community Shield, so it's a bit different. He was then asked on if Willian and Saliba would play against Liverpool people, and he said he's never going to come out. Obviously, you know, Klim and Klopp are not, it's not the make or break game of the season, but he's still, you know, he's got that manager thing about him. He's not going to hot up what he's doing. He said, I don't know. We will make that decision tomorrow on who is going to play and who is going to be involved. But for sure, they're going to see our players playing a lot of minutes this season. So it's not a rush to see them in one game. I know they'll be excited and desperate to see them, but they will see plenty of them this year. And then he was asked on, finally, people, it's irrelevant, but the importance of the win against Liverpool in the league and, you know, the fact that it wasn't long ago. He said, you're right. I think it will give us a big platform of confidence and belief that we could challenge and play against the top teams at that level as well and beat them. And, you know, always finding a way to win a game. After we did it with Man City and we did it with Chelsea, but I agree that at the moment probably was a moment where the team clicked a little bit and went into more of belief mode. And what can you say? What can you say? He's spoken about Gabriel, he's spoken about Aubameyang, he's dropped the gauntlet down at Guendouzi and players like that. So what can I say, people? It's been an interesting press conference, you know. In relation to my preview of the game against Liverpool, I'll probably drop it tomorrow, which is Friday. But for his press conference, this is all I wanted to hear from Arteta. On that note, though, people, DG, I'm out.